Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got some breaking news coming out here for you. So we're going to be talking about UK's Defense Secretary. This is Grant Shapps here in the photo. And he's recently come out in a statement today and said that British intelligence has evidence that China is going to be supplying Russia with combat equipment. Okay, this is lethal aid for Russia to fight their war against Ukraine. Now, this is huge news here. We'll have to see what he reveals in the coming days, but we don't know exactly what types of equipment that China would be supplying Russia. But this is pretty major escalation, okay? Because China, for the most part, has come out publicly and stated that they'd be like a mediator, that they were trying to push for peace in Ukraine. They weren't really trying to get involved, but there was a lot of speculation about whether they were actually supplying equipment. This may not be a surprise to many people that this is coming out, but publicly, this has not been, obviously declared that China is actively working with Russia. We do know that Iran has provided missiles, ballistic missiles, all kinds of equipment to Russia, and also North Korea supplying millions of rounds of artillery shells and lots of other types of equipment for them as well. But China has been relatively quiet in terms of cooperation with Moscow. So this is very big news, and I want to go ahead and get right into this and talk about this some more. So we've got an article here. This is on the Telegraph, okay? And I apologize, a quarter of the screen is blocked off because I'm not a paid member, and I refuse to be. So China and Russia working together on war in Ukraine, warns Shapps. Defense Secretary says the countries are collaborating on weaponry for Moscow to deploy against Kiev. So again, this just coming out today, May 22nd, 2024. British intelligence has evidence that Russia and China are working together on combat equipment to be used in Ukraine, Grant Shapps has revealed. The defense secretary said that the two countries were collaborating on lethal aid for Moscow to deploy in its war against Kiev. Look at lethal aid, okay? He told a defense conference in London on Wednesday an axis of authoritarian states led by Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea have escalated fueled conflicts and tensions. They have increasingly been working together, he said. And today I can reveal that we have evidence that Russia and China are collaborating on a combat equipment for use in Ukraine. So he says he can reveal that they have evidence. Okay, I was hearing as well that some of this intelligence may have come from the US as well, but they're stating here in this article that it's just British intelligence. He said that the surge in trade between the two nations since the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine and Vladimir Putin's recent state visit to Beijing showed that the countries were covering each other's back. Now, yeah, Putin did go to Beijing recently, I believe, and I mean that's a huge sign. If countries are doing that, more likely they're working together. But again, this hasn't been publicly declared that China's been obviously working and collaborating with Russia to provide them lethal aid, especially lethal aid. Okay. If they're supplying them other equipment, let's say computer chips or whatever it might be, something like that, that's a different story. But actually giving them military equipment to use to bomb Ukraine or to wound or injure or potentially kill some of their soldiers, and also the innocent people that are being bombed there every day too. Okay, I report Kharkiv all the time comes under attack. Lots of innocent people are being killed there every week by Russian attacks. Okay, so this means that China would now be an accomplice to this, and China's also a major economic superpower. Okay, they're one of the strongest economies in the world, not the strongest, but one of the strongest, and much stronger than Russia, of course. So this would be make it very difficult for the U.S. and its allies to continue fighting against this war in Ukraine if China were to get involved, considering the size of their economy. World needs to wake up. China's embassy in the U.S. said in April that it had not provided any weaponry to Russia, adding that it is not a producer of or a party involved in the Ukraine crisis. Mr. Shapps said in a speech that the world needed to wake up to the growing threats to the West. He later added that lethal aid is now or will be flowing from China to Russia and into Ukraine. I think it is a significant development. The defense secretary did not provide further evidence to support his assertion. Mr. Shapps added that he would make the unambiguous case for all NATO countries to boost their defense expenditure to 2.5% at the bloc summit in Washington, D.C. in July. The current NATO standard is 2%, but only 11 of the alliance's 32 members reached the target last year. However, in April, the UK committed to boosting its defense spending to 2.5% by 2030. Excuse me. So that's another big one. Okay, we've been talking a lot about that, about boosting defense spending to at least 2%, but 2.5% looks to be the UK's target, and they're trying to get other NATO members to start doing the same thing. And what this means is this is more escalation throughout the world, and the West needs to get prepared to go to war against not only Russia, but potentially China, potentially North Korea, Iran, okay? Any other countries that are involved in what's happening over here could team up, and this could be a major world war. And that's what people like Defense Secretary Grant Shapps sees in the future is potential war coming, okay? This is only more escalation and leading to something major. And there's lots of countries in the West right now that are not prepared for this, okay? There's tons of countries that are pushing less than 1% of their defense expenditure, okay? So they obviously need to boost their defense spending to get prepared for war if it were to break out. So it says right here too, emboldened by Western timidity, Mr. Shapps said Putin and his autocratic allies in Beijing, Pyongyang, and Tehran have been emboldened by 25 years of Western timidity towards repression at home and aggression abroad. It's time for the world to wake up, and that means translating this moment into concrete plans and capabilities, and that starts with laying the foundations for an alliance-wide increase in spending on our collective deterrence. The Chinese embassy in London did not immediately respond to a request for comment from Reuters. So what he's talking about here when it comes to increasing their defense spending is creating a deterrence, okay? If NATO is strong, if NATO has lots of weaponry, lots of soldiers, lots of everything, their militaries are strong, it would deter countries like China, Russia, or potentially at least that would be relatively speaking, right? It would deter them from wanting to start any kind of a war, or maybe make these countries back down. If they appear stronger, it will deter other countries from wanting to start a war, which is kind of the idea here, that it's not so much preparing for a potential war, it's more deterrence first, and then if deterrence doesn't work, they need to be prepared to go to war. So this is obviously major escalation, at least it is to me, and to be honest with you, it's not widely talked about right now. I don't know if maybe this information is just barely coming out today. Maybe more publications will pick up on this, but I found it on the Telegraph for you. And yeah, I mean, it looks like to me, according to the Defense Secretary Grant Shapps here, that China will be supplying Russia with combat equipment probably in the short term. Now, what does this show us as well? This shows us that Russia is not doing as well in this war as they thought they were. And I think a lot of this has to do really with the arms shipments that are going to Ukraine. Okay, now that we had just a couple months ago the 60 billion aid package going to Ukraine, that's going to beef up their forces quite a bit and bring them a lot of firepower, and it's going to make it harder for Russia to gain any ground. And it was just just a month or so ago when Vladimir Putin was reelected into power in Russia, and he wanted Ukraine to be, at least a portion of it, have a buffer zone to protect their country and their borders. And that's why they also launched this offensive into Kharkiv, and eventually we'll probably see the Sumy and Chernihiv, if I'm saying that right, those regions as well coming under attack. And so far it's not looking that great for them, okay? So they're obviously in need of help as well. Russia does not have a major economy, and their energy sector with their oil depots have been hit like crazy by drone attacks. So that's got to be affecting them as well. So they only have so much money, okay? Their economy is relatively small. I believe it's approximately the size of like Canada. So it's going to make it more difficult for them to fight this war without help from the outside, which is why I think China's finally starting to step in. So like I've said, we're seeing an inflection point in this war, and I've said this many times. We're starting to see a major shift from both sides, where now it's starting to be an all-in kind of conflict. Both sides coming all in, all the Western allies coming in to help Ukraine, and then all of the sides siding with Russia. So I'm talking, China, North Korea, Iran, starting to step up and help them out. And this war is only going to get more bloodier and continue to expand. So that's going to be it for this update, though. If you got something out of this update, please smash that like button. And also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. With that, I hope y'all have a great day. Everybody take care, and God bless. and we'll see you in the next one.